Chapter 20, Section 2 talks about properties of communities. The three community characteristics we'll be looking at are richness, diversity, and stability. Community richness refers to the number of species that a community contains, so an actual count of those species. The community diversity refers to how common a species is, so how many or the abundance of each number of organisms within a species. And then also community stability, which is its ability to resist change. And the higher the richness, or the more species that a community contains, the greater stability it has. That creates a lot of links between species and helps just overall resistance to any sort of change that could occur within that environment. Some species richness patterns. One is that the communities that are closer to the equator have more species, and there's a couple reasons for that. One, there's more temperate habitats, a little bit better weather, more energy available because there's more sun more often. So there can be more plants photosynthesizing, and then therefore more heterotrophs that are surviving off the autotrophs, and so on. Then for the species area effect, that just means that the larger areas usually contain more species than smaller areas, which kind of makes some logical sense when you think about it. You know, a tiny little island would not be able to support the same number of species that, you know, an entire continent might be able to do. Succession is another term that we're going to be talking about, and there's a couple different types of succession, but when we refer to succession, we're talking about the gradual and sequential regrowth of species in an area. So there can be either primary or secondary succession. With primary, we're talking about the development of a community in an area that had never had life before. So, you know, it could be bare rock or a sand dune. And this is going to be an extremely slow process because the minerals that are necessary for plant growth are often unavailable. So think perhaps of, you know, as glaciers have receded, you know, and there's just rock underneath, it takes a long time before things will grow in that particular area. With secondary succession, we're talking about a change of community makeup after a disturbance. So it had living organisms there, but something disturbed that. For instance, a fire or a flood, or maybe over farming. That's why a lot of farmers will rotate their crops throughout the years to keep their fields still full of nutrients. And this process generally takes about 100 years to return back to its original ecosystem. Some terms that go with succession are pioneer species and climax community. A pioneer species is pretty much just like it sounds. These are species that are going to be the first ones to help with succession. So they're generally small, fast-growing, fast-reproducing organisms that don't require a whole lot of nutrients or special conditions. A lot of weeds and different types of grasses are going to be pioneer species. And then a climax community is going to be the community makeup that will last a long time. So this is your stable endpoint of succession, when all of this area has been regrown or grown for the first time. When you finally reach that stable community, that is your climax community.